Hi students, I'm Shayna from EspressoEnglish.net, and this lesson is all about reported speech. What is reported speech? Reported speech is when we talk about what somebody else said. For example, direct speech is, I've been to London 3 times. And reported speech is, she said she'd been to London 3 times. There are a lot of tricky little details to remember with reported speech, but don't worry, I'll explain them in this video and we'll see lots of examples. The lesson will have 3 parts. We'll start by looking at statements in reported speech, and then we'll learn about some exceptions to the rules, and finally we'll cover reported questions, requests, and commands. So much of English grammar, like this topic, reported speech, can be confusing, hard to understand, and even harder to use correctly. But I can help you learn grammar easily and use it confidently inside my Advanced English Grammar course. In this course, I will make even the most difficult parts of English grammar clear to you, and there are lots of opportunities for you to practice. Click on the link under this video for more information and to sign up for the Advanced English Grammar course. Okay, let's get started with reported speech. Like I said earlier, we use it for talking about something a person said in the past. And when we do this, we often change the verb tense backwards in time. This can be called backshift. Let me show you some examples. Simple present in direct speech becomes simple past in reported speech. For example, I want to go home, that's direct, becomes she said she wanted to go home, that's reported speech. Present continuous becomes past continuous. For example, I'm reading a good book, that's direct, becomes she said she was reading a good book. Simple past becomes past perfect. For example, I ate pasta for dinner last night, that's direct, becomes she said she'd eaten pasta for dinner the night before, that's reported speech. Present perfect also becomes past perfect. For example, I've just finished cleaning my room, that's direct, becomes she said she'd just finished cleaning her room, that's reported. Another present perfect example, my mother has never been to Japan, that's direct, becomes she said her mother had never been to Japan, that's reported. Direct speech with can and can't becomes could and couldn't in reported speech. For example, I can meet with you next Monday, that's direct, becomes she said she could meet with me next Monday, that's reported. Sorry, I can't talk now, I'm at work, that's direct, becomes she said she couldn't talk at the moment because she was at work, that's reported. Will and won't in direct speech become would and wouldn't in reported speech. For example, I'll pick him up at the airport, that's direct, becomes she said she would pick him up at the airport in reported speech. I won't tell anybody your secret, direct, becomes she said she wouldn't tell anybody my secret, reported. Sentences with should don't change. You should apologize, that's direct speech, becomes she said I should apologize, that's reported speech. I've got a quiz for you so you can practice changing sentences into reported speech. Click on the link under this video to try it and see how well you've learned so far. But now that you know some of the reported speech rules about backshift, let's learn some exceptions. There are 2 situations in which we do not need to change the verb. No backshift is needed when the situation is still true. For example, if someone says, I have 3 children, direct speech, then we would say, he said he has 3 children in reported speech, because the situation continues to be true. We don't backshift have to had, we just keep it has present tense. He said he has 3 children. If I tell you, I live in the United States, that's direct speech, then you could tell someone else, she said she lives in the United States. That's reported speech. Simple present continues to be simple present because it is still true. So when the situation is still true, then we don't need to backshift the verb. But when the situation is not still true, then we do need to backshift the verb. So imagine your friend says, I have a headache. Now, if you immediately go and talk to another friend, you could say, she said she has a headache, because it's still true. But if you're talking about that conversation a month after it happened, then you would say, she said she had a headache, because it's no longer true. I'm sure her headache hasn't lasted an entire month. So when the situation is still true, then we don't need to change the verb when we report the speech. But when the situation is not still true today, then we must backshift the verb. We also don't need to backshift the verb when somebody said something about the future and the event is still in the future. Here's an example. Let's imagine that today is Wednesday, okay? And I'm talking about a conversation that I had on Monday, so 2 days ago. In this conversation, my friend said, I'll call you on Friday. So her call, which she promised, is still in the future. She said it on Monday, today is Wednesday, and she promised to call me on Friday. So when reporting this speech, I would say, she said she'll call me on Friday, because Friday is still in the future from now. It is also possible to say, she said she'd call me, she would call me on Friday. Both of them are correct, so the backshift in this case is optional. She will call me, or she said she would call me on Friday. But let's look at a different situation. Today is Wednesday. I talked to my friend on Monday, but she said, I'll call you on Tuesday. Now, both the conversation and the intended call are in the past. Nothing is in the future. So now I would report the speech by saying, she said she'd call me on Tuesday. She would call me on Tuesday. Now I must backshift because the event is not still in the future. Both the conversation, the original statement, and the event she was talking about, calling me, are in the past. Okay, so quick review. Normally, in reported speech, we backshift the verb. We put it in a verb tense that's a little bit further in the past. But there are two situations in which we don't need to do this. One is when the situation is still true, and the other one is when the situation is still in the future. In both of these cases, we don't need to backshift the verb. We can simply use the same verb tense that the person originally used in the conversation. So those were the rules for reported statements, just regular sentences. What about reported speech for questions, requests, and orders? For requests, we use asked someone to do something. For example, please make a copy of this report. That's direct speech. Becomes, she asked me to make a copy of the report in reported speech. And for orders, we use told someone to do something. Go to the bank, that's an order in direct speech, becomes, he told me to go to the bank in reported speech. So, reported requests, asked someone to do something, and reported orders or commands, told someone to do something. And the main verb stays in the infinitive with to. She asked me to make a copy. He told me to go to the bank. For yes or no questions, we use asked if and wanted to know if in reported speech. So, are you coming to the party? Direct speech becomes, he asked if I was coming to the party in reported speech. Did you turn off the TV? In direct speech becomes, she wanted to know if I had turned off the TV in reported speech. The main verb changes and backshifts according to the rules and exceptions we learned earlier. Notice that we don't use do, does, or did in the reported question. So we don't say, she wanted to know, did I turn off the TV? We don't use those helping verbs in reported speech. The correct sentence is, she wanted to know if I had turned off the TV. For other questions that are not yes or no questions, we use asked or wanted to know without the word if. So, when was the company founded? Direct becomes, she asked when the company was founded. Reported speech. What kind of car do you drive? Direct becomes, he wanted to know what kind of car I drive. Reported. Again, notice that we don't use do, does, or did in reported questions. Where does he work becomes, she wanted to know where he works, not she wanted to know where does he work. Also, in questions with the verb to be, the word order changes in the reported question. So, the direct question, where were you born? We have the reported question, he asked where I was born. In the direct question, the verb to be, were, comes before the subject. Where were you born? And in the reported question, the verb to be comes after the subject. He asked where I was born, not he asked where was I born. I've got another quiz to help you practice reported requests, commands, and questions. I'll put a link to that under this video as well. We covered a lot of reported speech rules and exceptions today, so I highly recommend that you do the quizzes to test yourself and make sure you've understood. If you want to take your English grammar to the next level, then my Advanced English Grammar course is for you. It will help you master the details of the English language with clear explanations of essential grammar topics and lots of practice. I hope to see you inside. I've got one last little exercise for you, and that is to post a comment using reported speech. Think about a conversation you've had in the past and tell me about it. Let's see you put this into practice right away. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.